Okay, I have been a freelance artist for 8 years. My art's very expressive, it's very fluid. I love fashion, I love style, beautiful places, beautiful things. Basically, I started drawing when I was very young. I would come out of school and I would go straight to my room, just spending hours and hours drawing in my room. And it was kind of a way for me to, I don't know, get all my fears on paper. You know, I directed all of my thoughts on paper. And, you know, as I grew up, I just became more and more expressive with my work. And anyway, I was doing it ever since. So it's been a very long time. So that was quite an interesting one. When I was young, I used to draw a lot of design. So it started from a really early age. You know, even when I was 4 or 5, I'd have to do my own hair. You know, I couldn't let anybody dress me. I'd have to dress myself, you know, so I love style. So it was quite implemented when I was young. And then when I was in school, you know, I always used to break the rules. I used to wear berets to school, get in loads of trouble. So, you know, I was always kind of trying to push style, think of new ways to kind of present myself, things like that. The actual illustration, I just loved drawing, and I loved drawing people, and that was my favourite thing to do. I used to draw my mum. She's very elegant, and, you know, I loved drawing beautiful women and faces. And then I went to Central St Martin's, and that's when I got into fashion, and that was kind of the time where I thought, oh my gosh, I could actually do something with this. It didn't really occur to me. And then during that time, I was illustrating a lot of clothing, and I was making a lot of clothing, but I thought I'm absolutely terrible at making the clothes. So I ended up going to an illustration course at London College of Fashion in London. And that's kind of where it developed. I started developing my own style. And then when I came out, I couldn't handle drawing anymore. I was so sick of it. So I went into lots of different fashion houses, buying, you know, you name it, for internships. But I continued to draw. And then one day I just thought, you know, this is the only thing that feels natural to me. You know, everything else felt wrong. Everything else I did didn't suit me. So I thought it was something that it was kind of like a calling, you know, it kind of chose me. So I knew I had to give it a go, yeah. Yeah, actually, what I would say, the main points I'm thinking of now, is that it can go in a direction where it can be very quick. So, you know, the main things I can think of are, I do a lot of, you know, live events. So you draw things in a very quick way, it's very expressive, and it's got a very, you know, real style element to it. And I think it's kind of similar to illustration and fine art, but there is a different, it's very hard to pinpoint it, but it is quite niche, I would say. You're just drawn to what you're drawn to. I mean, I've never really seen a complete difference, but the only thing I can say is that it's just, for me, on my end, it's just quick. And you're drawing from catwalks, magazines, it's different types of jobs. You have to develop a real style, that for one, you know, your own individual style, something you feel really comfortable with, and that can take some time. You have to have so many different skills. You have to be quite entrepreneurial with your ideas. I think as an illustrator, you have to keep excited about things, keep inspired, have an insane amount of determination and hard work. So it's not always about your talent. So are you saying for me to give advice to illustrators? So it's kind of, you just need to be very mentally tough, because it can be really hard. The career is tough. People think that you just draw pretty pictures, and it's not like that at all. You have to know how to market yourself. You have to present yourself well. You have to be quite good with people, hopefully. So that's always a bonus. And I think you just have to be quite business savvy to make it achievable. There's a lot of different things that you need to be good at, and you need to be smart. So it's skills that you develop over time, but the main things is that you learn from your skills, that you're good to people, and that you just continue to be inspired and be completely determined, and nothing will get in your way, I guess. So it can range. So I use oil paints sometimes, which are beautiful. They're so fun and gorgeous to work with. They're really dreamlike, they're very fluid. So my work is very fluid. I guess people describe it as feminine. So there's a real dreamlike quality to oil paints, and there's some beautiful colours that you can emulate. But this is a slow process. So for me, I love it, but it's a slow process in the studio to create these pieces. The things that I love using for fast pieces are things like gouache, watercolour, ink, and I love different variations of paintbrushes, so you're kind of, the movements of the paintbrush. It's also just the way you apply the mediums. It's not just the mediums themselves, but how you apply it. So yes, gouache, watercolour, I love working with, some pastels. It's kind of a bit of everything, but oil paints are probably my favourite, but they're very slow process kind of materials. I came out of college. I'd done a lot of internships in different areas, didn't enjoy any of them. And it was interesting because there was a part of me that was like, I like talking to people, I love art, I can sell art. So I didn't even consider drawing to be a career at that point. So I got in touch with the gallery and I said, I really want to work for your gallery, I can sell your work. And then they came back and they said, well, how about if you sell your work at our gallery? We've just discovered your blog, we love your pieces. Can we take you on as an artist rather than somebody who sells work? And I was like, absolutely. And that was my first client. So it was a massive surprise. It was kind of like, oh gosh, I wasn't really looking for this, but it came to me and I was very lucky. Never stop painting, never stop drawing. Develop your style, do an amazing portfolio as the best work that you can possibly do, and just get to know as many people as you can. I think that's it's not talked about enough, that you have to be, in my opinion, you have to also be personable, and that you take an interest in people, and that hopefully people take an interest in you and not just your work, because that's a really important part of it. So it's also just not being afraid, just going in, diving in without too much fear, because I think fear stops you. And I would say, you need to be slightly, I wouldn't say fearless, but you have to kind of go for opportunities when they come. So you have to build up your confidence. When I was very young, I was very, very shy. And I knew that going into this, I was like, I have to be better. I have to deal with people all the time. So I would say that's not a talked about thing enough. You have to be able to talk about your work. You have to talk about yourself, and people have to kind of want to work with you. So as well as having this great portfolio, hopefully, they have to want to work with you, because you have to be workable. You have to adapt to what people want. So it's about being savvy about that as well. I think I love the students. I think they're just fantastic, and I think, I won't go into it because I can get really tearful, which is weird, but I see some of their work and sometimes I want to cry, because it just brings so much happiness to me, where they, it's really rewarding to see students, and they don't just learn from you, they learn from themselves. They produce this beautiful work, and just seeing them work hard and achieve their dreams, it's just like watching yourself in a very self-absorbed way, but it's just, the students bring a lot of joy to me. I think that's the main thing, because sometimes teaching can be quite hard, and it is a lot of preparation, and that side of it can be kind of boring. But then when you're around the students and you're interacting with them, then you realise, how exciting it is. Just seeing what they produce is incredible. Okay, well, I'm really obsessed with hotels. I don't know what it is, but it makes me feel really comfortable, and also architecture. So I would say bank, which a lot of people would laugh at because banks for bankers. They're not for it's not for artists really. But the architecture is so gorgeous. It's, you know, you've got these big pillars, and it's just really, it's very old school, and there's a vibe about it that's very kind of peaceful to me. And I've got a hotel that I go to there where I just have some mint tea in the lobby, and it's just the most beautiful place just to do some emails. I mean, it's just, you know, and it's kind of free to be in there. It's just incredible. So I would say bank, and also by the river, South Bank is really beautiful. It's not something that I've thought about because I think that I've just been lucky enough to work at such amazing colleges, and the teachers are so passionate. I think passion is just the main thing for me, because you have to inject that into people that want to learn. I think the one thing that I would say is the practicality of, say for example, when I was learning, I was never spoken to about what it would take to have this as a job. You know, the practicalities of doing an invoice, you know, making your way into the world a little bit more as a creative. I would say those things need to be covered a little bit more, because it's all just creativity, which is perfect, but then at the same time you need to learn more practical steps to achieve your goals. I think that's what's lacking in colleges a little bit. It would be nice to have that a little bit more for students. I'd love to have a relationship with a hotel, for example, that has chains all over the world. And I'd love to be able to illustrate at these different hotels, like live events. So I've been doing a lot of live events, and I meet lots of people and I draw them really fast. And you know, this is like becoming quite a big source of entertainment, not just entertainment, but it's something that people, hopefully, they seem to really love. So I think it's something that I want to integrate into my practice a little bit more. I'd love to just travel, and with that comes travel and meeting more people. I'm not really an artist that is great in the studio for long amounts of time, because for me, it's lonely. So for me, I like to get out and integrate my work amongst people as much as possible, and to travel with that. Other things would be to work with an amazing designer, preferably a really famous one, but just to do, maybe work with some clothing with prints would be fantastic, and also an amazing beauty brand would be incredible. But I think my main thing is to just, you know, I've just been represented by an amazing agency in Paris, and I think the main thing is just to have an amazing relationship with this agency, and to just do these amazing commercial jobs that I feel bring a lot of happiness, and just work with brands and people that I believe in. I love like gestural, expressional, do you say expressional? Expressive drawings, which I would really, so there'll be a live model, and the drawings will be, I want people to loosen up, be really expressive, be really fluid with the way that they draw people. So the live model will be wearing something plain at the beginning, and we're going to focus on the figure and the body, and I just want them to become really loose, draw the figure. And then as we go on, it's going to be developing exercises, so they're going to be building up the body with paintbrushes, watercolour, just adding textures and structure to the body, and then also adding, you know, I put together some clothing for them as well. So the model's going to be wearing these kind of different, you know, silhouette clothing, colourful clothing, prints. So I hope, you know, it's going to be quick exercises where they're going to build up fashion illustrations. It's almost like you're painting from a runway, but the model is a bit more still. So that's what's going to happen, and also faces. So it would be, I've still not quite decided this. I don't know whether they should draw directly from the model or from each other, but I've always found that students love drawing from one another and building up faces, and I want to teach that. I think it's so exciting. And it integrates identity into illustration, which I don't think is talked about enough as well. Like, faces are key to clothing, and the interest that comes with that, I think. Yeah, there are times when I have to be alone. So when I say I don't like to be alone, I just don't like to be alone for long periods of time. So I'm talking about weeks and weeks in the studio. It's not that enjoyable for me. So I would just interact with the two. So say for example, if I had, I was traveling, I'd make sure that I could have my own space because, I love interacting, but then every creative and myself especially, like I need to wind down and reflect on the day. I need to paint in my own space. So that's a really, really good question. But the interesting thing is that, I would definitely be able to integrate the two, and I have done for quite a few years. But the interesting thing is counterbalancing. So it's a very tough way to be on your own all the time, but that your best work can come from that. But it can also be a very sad time. So it's kind of, it's like balancing your life in a way. So a lot of artists, they can work on their own and, be, really intense with their emotions, and so do I, but it's also, you want happiness in your life as well. And for me, happiness does come with interaction. So it's just finding a kind of balance without you going absolutely nuts in the studio for months on end, So I think that's kind of just playing with that, just side by side, a little bit of interacting here, then going back to your studio to deliver personal work. But if you don't get out there and interact, for me, I don't have that inspiration to keep producing because I need people. I need to see what's out there. I need, I need to see inspiration outside of the studio. That's why I do fashion illustration. Maybe that's why it's a little bit different as well, because I like to interact with clients. I like to have that interaction with people, and it's probably more interactive than being a fine artist. I think that's the difference. So for me, I can be in the studio and it is lonely. I don't always enjoy the loneliness, but yes, your work can be amazing. It does come out of slight pain, but then you've got this joy at the end of saying, oh my gosh, I've produced my best work. And you're working with you have to sit with your emotions a lot. It's very intense. It's a very intense experience. And I think the reason why I like talking about doing live events sometimes is because it takes you out of yourself. And it's like bam, 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 there, you're meeting people, and it's a happy experience all the time for me. Whether the studio you are dealing with by yourself, you have to sit by yourself, you have to deal with all these emotions. I think it's it's a very torturous experience, but then you get something amazing out of it. So it's 50-50.